Secondly, if you take these two men, David was a man who desired the presence of God. Saul was a man who desired the praise of people. Today, where do you think your heart is positioned? I can tell you as a pastor, it's really tough because you want to please people and you want to please God. And sometimes you can't do both. You don't really have to be a pastor. Any human being, if you are genuinely following God, there will always be a challenge to please God and please the people. And in this season, you have to pray and say, Lord, give me a heart where you matter more to me than what the people think about me, wherever you have placed me. I know we live in this cancel culture and many of us are afraid to speak what is true because you will get cancelled. Don't be afraid to speak truth in love because that speaks. Because there are people who want to know truth. How does evil prosper? It takes good men to do nothing. When you and I know truth and we keep our mouth shut, then evil prospers. Why do we keep our mouth shut? Because we are more afraid of pleasing people than pleasing God. And there has to be generations that rise up and say, we will not be afraid of people. We don't care if people cancel us. We will stand on the truth of God. And for that, you need to develop a heart that says, I trust you implicitly. Therefore, I will always stand up for what is right. You and I, we will please people because we cannot fully trust God. That is why. But we need to develop that. It's interesting, when Saul became king, the Ark of the Covenant had already been taken by the Philistines. Ark of the Covenant, church, is the presence of God. It was symbolic wooden box with two archangels like this, and inside the box was a pot of manna, Moses' staff, and the commandments. And that was very holy. And that was kept in the Holy of Holies in the temple. But what happened is the Philistines came and they took it because they knew with that the people of Israel are very strong. Now, I want you to hear this because this is not just a history lesson, but I believe it's a spiritual lesson for us now. The enemy wants to rob the presence of God from the church. The enemy wants to rob the presence of God from his people. And he has done a fabulous job. Most churches have no presence of God because either we put on a show for the people and the people keep coming back for the show. There is no presence, but there's a personality. Hello? Are you hearing me? If you come to this church for this personality, you are missing on God. Don't come for the personality, but come because there is a presence of God in the house of God. You see, today the church has been full like Saul. Saul became king. He didn't care where the presence of God was. God is prospering me. That's all I want. I want prosperity. We are winning. We are wrecking nations. He didn't even for a second think about the presence of God because he didn't care. He was more about what we can get. And the enemy has done that beautifully to the church today. This is why many young people have nothing to do with the church today. Why? Because the presence of God has left the church. It is as dead as any other dead thing they go to. The presence of God has to come back to the church. But what did David do? The moment he became king, he was like, where's the ark? Let's go get it. I love it. I love his enthusiasm. But even in his enthusiasm, he messed up and he brought it the wrong way. Why? Because at that moment, he listened to the people. The people said, let's build this beautiful whale cart. It was like a whale cart. That's why we have whale carts today. Similar principle. Thousands of years. Principle is still the same. Let's build this beautiful cart. And on this cart, we will put the ark and we'll bring it back. Just like all the other nations do to their gods. Let's be like them. And I'm sure our God also will be very pleased. So they made this beautiful ox cart. They put it and they brought it. But there was a little bump. And as the bump happened and the thing was shaking, somebody went to touch it. He touched it and he died. And David got very scared and he said, leave it. I'm too scared to touch it now. And they all ran off and they put it in some Obed-Edom's house. But later on he said, no, I still want the presence of God. But this time he prayed and he says, my presence will not be carried on ox carts. I want you to catch this, people of God. God is not impressed by our big building. People are impressed by what we can do. God is not impressed. God says, I will be carried on the shoulders of men, not on ox carts. Today he says, I don't dwell in handmade buildings. I dwell in the hearts of people. Without the presence of God, that is nothing. I would rather stay here and not move an inch without the presence of God. And that's what David says, I want your presence. Church, we need to do whatever it takes to keep the presence of God and have it so real that when our young people come to church, it's not just a handful of us who are saying, something happened. No, they will know that God is real. That they will feel the power of God when they come. They will want to know God because of the presence of God. All our fancy shows is nothing. You and I cannot compete with the world. Whatever fancy show the Christians put up, a man-made show, they do better with man-made stuff. There is no way we can match the world with man-made stuff. We can't. We're never called to do that. We're called to carry the presence of God. And I say, can we return to our hearts and say, it's not about whatever the show they put on this Sunday, but I come to church because I want to encounter the presence of God. We must be that church. That's the church Jesus said, build. I've shared this with you. He said, change the way you do church. Build the church I said I will build. And that church has a revelation from the Father of who I am. People of revelation. People know who God is, not just coming and going through. And that's what God is saying. David desired the presence of God. Desire the presence of God. In your home, when you go to pray. In your home, when you go to worship, say, Lord, I'm going to pray today, but I need something from you, something more tangible than me just reading and going. Get real. Say, Lord, you are real, and I need to hear you today. I need you today. See, we are so quick to let go. I prayed a prayer. My pastor said to pray, I need you. So in the morning, I took my Bible. I went and sat down. I said, need you to hear you. He didn't say anything, so I walked off. What kind of genuine followers are we if that's our response? But I'm saying, no. See, I came to hear the Lord because I'm tired of hearing you once a year or twice a year. I used to be thrilled when I heard that once a year, something from God. It was like, oh my gosh, this is like, whoo, God spoke to me. But I was like, isn't this life supposed to be a little bit more than that? My sheep hear my voice. Until I came to say, Lord, no, I need to hear you about this problem and I need a solution and I'm not going to stop until you get through to me. It took me 2 weeks. Every day, ever I remember, I'm like, say, you still haven't spoken. I'm waiting on you. I want to hear. I won't let go till you speak. And then finally it came. And from that day, it has been just going upwards. But we have to say, no, Lord, I must hear you. I must hear you. We have to come to that place. Don't give up so easily. But I prayed, he did nothing. No. Press in. Press in. Say, Lord, remove the noise now. Too much noise. Remove the clutter now so I can hear you. Do whatever it takes. I must hear you.